Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is the Stochastic.com NFL Showdown live before lock. Steelers, Tennessee Titans, 37-point total, 3-point spread. Yeah, a little Kenny Pickett, Will Levis matchup. This is good stuff, my friends. This is good stuff. It actually kind of is. You get DeAndre Hopkins, Derrick Henry. On the other side, Deontay Johnson. Maybe he'll, you know what, Neil? I said it on my Odd Shopper video today. I tweeted about it. He's gonna score. He's gonna score today for the first time since 2021.
We can dream. I'm hoping for it.
The funny thing is though, there's no reason he shouldn't be able to. Like,
no, not at all.
You know why too? Here's what his touchdown prop on Caesars. Now, if you looked at it on, say, Bet365 or something, plus 250, if you looked at his touchdown prop on Caesars and these, actually, I'll give you Pinnacle because Pinnacle's the sharpest book out there, plus 200. The guy hasn't scored in literally almost 2 calendar years, and he's still 2-1 to score.
Yeah, I mean, he should be able to score. He had 14 targets last game. Like at some point, he's going to score. Did you actually bet it?
What's that?
Did you actually bet it?
Yeah, I had to.
Nice.
I had to. Got good odds on it though. If you're betting touchdown props, you got to get good odds. You have to. I'm saying, because if you're just on one book, you could look and you bet 100 and you win 150, or you're like, shit, I could have won 300 on this.
Right.
He's Neil Orfield at Player Q DFS. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D, LOUGHY_D. Yeah. We got a fun game ahead of us. Hit that thumbs up, guy. Appreciate you being with us. Number one, as always, we love doing this show. Love having you guys hang with us on Thursday. We'll break this slate down. We'll take a look at the Sims after that. Jordan, it appears you've already run the Sims for us. We'll look at the lineup generator too, see what it's giving us. Maybe we'll tweak the settings on that a little bit, see if we can get something sneaky. But yeah, I'm feeling good, man. I ate a little bit too much for dinner. But
that seems 3 in a row.
Yeah, that's a recurring theme, man. That's a recurring theme. But it's okay. We're good. We're good. I'm just gonna sit back like this, like a gluttonous freak. Anyway, what's up to everybody in the sin bin? Hey, people. Appreciate you guys. Atone for your sins here on Live Before Lock. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. This is good stuff. It's time to get into it. How are you feeling, man?
I'm feeling great. I'm ready to talk some Showdown. Yeah, as you said, like this isn't like the most exciting NFL game on a week where we have a ton of low totals. Like this week is just ugly across the NFL. This is the game with the lowest total as of when I looked this morning. It might have changed. It was pretty close, but 37 total on Thursday Night Football. But it is fun, like having the rookie Will Levis come in. He was exciting. Had a great game the last time out. Kind of fun to have him on this slate, hoping that he can continue that momentum. I think it's actually sort of a fun showdown slate, despite the low total and all that. And to answer the question from Vic David, I am drinking a Nitro Milk Stout, left hand brewery from Colorado. Are you familiar, Laffy?
I'm not.
Left hand milk stout. Okay, yeah,
no.
This is that, but the nitro version.
I love beer, but I'm a moron when it comes to it.
I am too. I am total moron. I'm not like I like ales and I don't like IPAs, all that stuff. I'm like, I just like beer. I just like drinking.
Do you go online and like review beers and give them? Okay.
Never.
Because I DM or I texted my buddy the other day. I was like, those seem like first of all, no problem with people that love IPAs. I think, they're great. And I'm always about a good IPA, switching things up. But I can't think of a person I would rather not hang out with than somebody who reviews beers. And one thing I noticed is they always consistently never give them like a very high score. It's always
right. Because it's the beer snobs that are doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's their life. Anyway, Whatever. Maybe I'm just a miserable prick at this point. I learned that on Halloween. I turned to my wife and my neighbor and I said, I'm becoming the person I would have hated as a kid.
Yeah.
I relish in that in an odd way.
So I felt a little bit bad. We've never put candy out at our house. We live on a very busy street. And as far as I know, no kids come on our street, so like I don't worry about it. But I actually this year I was like, maybe I'll put some out just in case, and then I forgot to order candy when I ordered groceries, so we didn't put candy out, and I felt a little bit bad because like those are just the people that you hate as a kid, the people who just don't put out candy.
The
But I don't
worst.
think anybody comes on our street because we live on a busy street. So
There was someone with a big sign that said, a few houses down from me, on the door that said, "We don't celebrate Halloween," with an exclamation point.
oh really?
I told my daughter, I said, "Get up there and knock on their door." No, maybe it's a religious thing. I don't know.
Did you scare any kids?
No, I said that's next year I'm doing that. I want my
okay,
daughter to
gotcha.
be old enough to be able to really appreciate the fear that I will strike into the hearts of these children. Yeah, I've got it all planned out. It's going to be great. I'm going to set up my doorbell cam to record for like 3 minutes straight and take it off 30 seconds. I'll just kill the battery. Who gives a shit? And then, yeah, it'll be good. We'll get some viral clips, Neil. We'll reconvene on October 31st, 2024. All right, you ready to talk some football?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so first thing I want to get into before we dive into anything, I mentioned that Matt and I talked about it this morning. You look at our top plays, single game, the Showdown tool, the top single game and Showdown tools. So where you have the leverage scores, you have top play probability, optimal probability, all that stuff. You look at leverage score, the 4 highest leverage players on this slate. Wow. The top 6 highest leverage players on this slate are all Pittsburgh Steelers, but it's the Pickett's and the Deontay Johnson and the Hayward and the Pickens, all of those guys in Steelers D that have really solid leverage today. And I got to be honest, I do understand it. I mean, Hayward, whatever, that's we can get into that in a little bit. But Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, in the 2 games since Deontay Johnson's return, they're combining for over a 50% target share. Why would they not? Why would you not want to get the ball to them? Understandably, we're going to talk about some cheap options as well. But I get it. At those price points, it seems entirely reasonable, albeit with a bad quarterback. I'm not sure how much that matters on a slate like tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they're 2 of the highest projected players on the slate, those Pittsburgh receivers. And for whatever reason, they are just way cheaper than Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins. So like it's just much easier to get to them. Makes sense that they are going to make it into the optimal lineup more often. Yeah, not a shock there at all, just because they are so cheap relative to their ceilings, their floors, just the base projection for both George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. Makes sense that they're going to be 2 of our better leverage plays on the slate.
I guess if we're looking at this, I want to get into quarterbacks in a second, but if you're talking about the top tier options, you put your Twitter thread out there today. It's a great one as always. And you're looking at the studs on this slate. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess you could say 6. I'm assuming you went with 6 here, or did you include Najee in that?
I included Najee and Jaylen Warren just because I always have the caveat, or I say that you should play at least 3 studs. So on this slate, it was like, I don't really feel that strongly about those 6. Like I don't feel that strongly that the top 6 are going to be, you're going to need 3 of them. So I included the running backs for the Steelers just because then I feel a little bit more like, yeah, it seems pretty likely that 3 of these 8 are going to be in the optimal.
Among the Henry, Hopkins, Levis, Pickett, Pickens, and Deontay Johnson, those 6. Let's just for a moment kind of chop Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren out of this conversation. How do you prioritize them, particularly the skill players where you have Harris, Pickens, and then Hopkins and Henry?
Yeah, so for me, because part of the way that I try to get unique is leaving salary on the table, it's just going to be so much easier to go to those Pittsburgh guys than Hopkins and Henry. Like, love me some Hopkins, love me some Henry, but they are so much more expensive than the Steelers guys. And honestly, the ceiling isn't really all that different. Like they're pretty similar in terms of likelihood of putting up a huge score, opportunities here. So I'm trusting the tools here. I'm trusting Deontay Johnson, 12% leverage overall. I love that. Kenny Pickett, 10% leverage overall. Love that. So I think it's going to be, Deontay Johnson is probably going to be my highest exposed player ultimately. I think Pickett will be up there. As far as the Tennessee guys go, I do have interest in Will Levis, in part because he is that kind of new unknown. He is getting, around 40% ownership. So not like he's going completely unowned, but especially after listening to you and Gajeski. So I actually, when I had done my thread, I had not yet finished the strategy show from this morning. I actually was listening intently for specifically what the hell happened with Will Levis in college, because his junior year had like nearly, I want to say nearly 500, at least nearly 400 yards rushing. And that's in college where like sacks count as negative yardage in college. So that's actually pretty massive rushing score his junior year. And then he had negative 100 yards his senior year. So I was like, I have no idea what's going on here. I wanted to hear from somebody who knows college football what was going on there. And Gajewski explained on the strategy show that he had turf toe his senior year. So that kind of brought down his rushing a bit. But in his last game, Will Levis rushed 7 times, only got 11 yards out of it, but it's at least promising that he had 7 rushes. So I do really like Will Levis also. So I'd throw him in there. And Hopkins, Henry, I'm probably just not going to get to as much just because of the price tags there are pretty prohibitive relative to a lot of other cheaper guys who are, project pretty similarly, have similar ceilings.
Yeah, it's tough. Levis does have the rushing upside, but at the same time, I can't help but come back to this. And first of all, if Will Levis comes out and is just dominant, it looks really good today, and you go, man, not only did he do it at home against Atlanta, but now he did it on the road against Pittsburgh. That might tell you something. Who knows? I mean, Ryan Tannehill might not come back as the starter. I'm not buying into it quite yet, though, Neil. But I will say, and as I did the show this morning, I kind of came around more on a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. I know he's a negatively leveraged player. I know when I ran the Sims earlier where I wasn't getting a ton of him, but I was getting enough of him to where I could say, all right, I'm not super over the field at all on Hopkins, but I have enough just in case he happens to have another one. Because the guy's still good. If you can get him the ball just somewhere around him, he's still good. Minkah Fitzpatrick is missing from this defense. It's one of these issues for me, though, where how much have we seen from Will Levis to really evaluate him at all outside of one game?
No, that is totally fair. And I wasn't really expecting him to be great. He was better in that game than we expected. I think there is an enormous range of outcomes there for Will Levis. So yeah, I'm taking a risk by playing a good amount here. He might, throw 3 interceptions and just be awful, but I think he's got the starting job at least for the entirety of the game. So kind of hoping that there's going to be a mix. I also love the idea of playing Will Levis and the Pittsburgh defense in the same lineup a lot tonight. I'm going to be doing a ton of that just because I think, Will Levis might be a guy who ends up throwing a pick 6 and also 3 touchdowns. I think that he's just got the potential to just be kind of a wild rookie quarterback. And he showed that he was not afraid to throw it down the field in the last game, which is great, both in terms of probably, hoping for long scores from the Titans, but also for hoping for interceptions from Pittsburgh. So I'm playing Will Levis. I agree with you though. Like it is very risky. What I like about him is just the ownership is not really that high on Levis. As I said,
for sure. I mean,
we have
captain
40%. Yeah.
And even 6% at captain isn't that much for a quarterback, especially on a bad slate like this.
Yeah. So if he were getting a lot of ownership because he was so good in the last game, I would say, you know what, that's a 1-game sample size. I'm gonna short that and get under the field. But 40% and both of these quarterbacks are under 10,000. Like they're both pretty inexpensive. Then I'm gonna have interest, and I'm probably gonna be overweight to the field there.
I guess when it comes to the running back situation, I mean, Derrick Henry, you can always play Derrick Henry. If this game stays competitive, it could be one of those spots where he ends up seeing easy 20 plus carries. He's coming off a 4 reception, 4 target game, which is really encouraging to see. Yep. You might see Will Levis look more towards his running backs in a spot like this. The target share was spread out last game, but those receivers, this is what is weird to me. You look at these receivers, man, there was really DeAndre Hopkins played 63% of snaps, 50% for Westbrook-Ikhine, 41% for Chris Moore, 51% for Treylon Burks, making his return, 26% for Kyle Phillips. How are you breaking? This is more important than anything else, the way that you end up playing these receivers, knowing that obviously Chiga Conquid played 72% of snaps. That's going to stay consistent. Wesco is going to block, but those receivers, 5 of them playing 25+% of snaps. I have to think that Hopkins gets back closer to the 80% that he had been playing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Hopkins is the only one that you can really feel very confident here for the Titans. I would expect him to play a majority of the snaps. I think over 80% seems likely. I mean, he had not been playing 80% the first 4 games of the year, and then week 5, week 6, he got over 80%, back down to 60% last week. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that the snap share is going to be there, and he's running routes when he's out there. So DeAndre Hopkins, the pretty clear number 1. And yeah, it is definitely confusing after DeAndre Hopkins here. I think for me, it's still Treylon Burks number 2. And I know you kind of disagreed with that take on the strategy show, you seem like you're a little bit down on Treylon Burks. And honestly, I don't know. I think that we're all kind of playing a guessing game with, do they consider Treylon Burks to be the wide receiver too? Is he going to, another week removed from his injury, play more? Because in his return from injury in week 8, he had not played since week 3. In his return from injury, he played 51% of snaps. I'm assuming that they still consider him their wide receiver too. He played 90% of snaps in week 1, 65% week 2, 75% week 3. So I would imagine they want to get Treylon Burks back up to, elite usage out there, snap share out there. But I don't know. Like, I don't know how they rank Treylon Burks relative to Kyle Phillips, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just assuming that, this is still his second year, talented, a highly drafted rookie at the very least, that they're still going to treat him like the wide receiver too. So I'm playing it that way, just, hoping that $3,800 price tag is something we're going to look at and think it was foolish after the game, but I don't feel that confident in it. What is your take on the Tennessee receivers here?
I think ultimately it just comes down to a situation where Treylon Burks thus far has been a bust, right? Yeah. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
And it's almost unfair to him because it was AJ Brown that he's always going to be compared to. You're probably right that do we see a snap count come up? But again, Westbrook-Ikhine, and I mentioned it to Matt, and then he pulled it up and he's like, oh my God. The fact that Westbrook-Ikhine has been targeted in the end zone and in the red zone, is one of these spots where I wouldn't be surprised to see, sure, okay, so we see Treylon Burks' snap count come up, but let's not forget that in week 1, Westbrook-Ikhine also played 81% of snaps. It was basically a 3-receiver offense. Chris Moore played 9 total snaps, and then you look at go look at all of the other games that we had Treylon Burks in. If Treylon Burks does come up, just given how weird the snap share was last week, then I think you have to naturally think that Westbrook-Ikhine also sees his snap count come up.
Yeah, that
unless you think that Kyle Phillips, who was out the first few weeks of the season, is going to take that much away from Westbrook-Ikhine.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. Like we have not actually seen all of these players healthy at the same time. As for, I guess in week 8, they were all healthy at the same time. So that's the only sample size we have. And it was it was Treylon Burks returning from injury. So we have no idea if that's just like the snap share that they want to use going forward, where nobody's really playing that much. They're spreading out their wide receiver usage, or if that was just a function of Treylon Burks returning from injury, not really quite ready yet. We're all kind of playing a guessing game here because we don't know. I'm assuming that it's DeAndre Hopkins. They're treating him as a wide receiver 1. I'm assuming it's still Treylon Burks as a wide receiver 2, followed by Westbrook-Ikhine. So I'm with you that, it's fairly likely that we see Westbrook-Ikhine come back up. He had previously played at least 68% of snaps in every single game, and in many of them was playing over 80%. So yeah, Westbrook-Ikhine, I think of as being the wide receiver 3 here. Chris Moore just being Chris Moore, Kyle Phillips, both guys that I'll have in some lineups. It doesn't take much. It takes one splash play to pay off their low price tags, but neither guy that I feel super confident in.
What are you doing with the pass catchers outside of Pickens and outside of Deontay Johnson? Because look, I know that they're going to be popular. I like both of those guys a lot today. I think they can get there in both ways. One of them and Johnson can get there possession. 13 targets last game. You could have another 7-8 reception game. Maybe he finds the end zone. That would be something special, wouldn't it? But then Pickens is the type of guy that might only have 3 receptions. One of them goes for 70+ yards and a touchdown, like we saw in week 2, primetime football against the Browns in that game that they won. So I like both of those guys. If you don't have anything to add, if you have anything to add on them, go for it. If not, I'd like to talk about some of these secondary, even tertiary guys here. We can talk about tight end and anybody not named Pickens and Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, so don't really have much to add to Pickens and Deontay Johnson. I think that you nailed it. They're the clear wide receivers 1 and 2 for the Steelers. I have a slight preference for Deontay Johnson, but I think both guys have pretty high ceilings here. Following those two, to me, it is probably Connor Hayward number 3 as far as like all of the pass catchers. And I skipped over Chigakonkwo. I like him quite a bit as well. I think that I would rank him 3rd after Treylon Burks, or maybe even 2nd after DeAndre Hopkins. So I just want to say that Chigakonkwo 2nd on the Titans with 31 targets this season. He has 53.7 expected fantasy points on the year, but has just 35.9 fantasy points. So he is a positive regression candidate at 4,200. There's a lot to like about Chigakonkwo. So I do want to throw that in there. I don't want to skip over him because he's not a wide receiver. But on the Steelers, so yeah, it's clearly Pickens, Deontay Johnson. After those two, it would be Connor Hayward for me, number 3, like I said, 3rd on the Steelers in both route participation and target share over the past 2 weeks. With Pat Freiermuth out, he's run routes on 83.3% of Steelers dropbacks, and he has a 13.2% target share at 2,800. Those are just pretty nice usage numbers for a player who is 2,800. So he would be the 3rd in line for me from the Steelers. Allen Robinson, he's 2,200. He's run routes on 60.3% of passing plays over the past, over the past 2 games. He has just 2 targets in those games. So just the target share has not been there for Allen Robinson. The fact that he's still running a lot of routes, though, I think I'd have to rank him number 4 after Connor Hayward there. And then it's kind of not a lot to love after those 4. Darnell Washington, I do have interest in just as a contrarian play. I think that he is a nice dart throw. He's a 6'7" rookie tight end who should be able to have some end zone looks and potentially score a touchdown eventually. He has not been targeted in the end zone at all so far this year. He also has seen his snap share decrease from 70% to 53% to 15% over the past 3 games, just 10 snaps in the most recent game. However, according to beat reporter Nick Farabaugh, Mike Tomlin indicated that it was a game-specific thing. It was because of the game script going on in that last game that he only played 10 snaps, and it's not because the coaching staff was dissatisfied with his production. So I'm hoping, like, if Darnell Washington can get back up to that 50% snap share, you're just kind of hoping for an end zone look. And he's, again, a 6'7" rookie tight end. It doesn't take all that much to pay off that $200 salary. So I'm going to take some shots on Darnell Washington. I'm not sure if there's anybody lower on the depth chart. I don't think I'm going to Miles Boykin here. Calvin Austin, I haven't really thought about him. I have to look closer at Calvin Austin's week 8 target, whether he was targeted at all, because he didn't really come on my radar, but I have to at least look at him. But he'd be the only other one that I might consider here, but currently not planning on playing him.
By the way, just used our NBA late swap tool while you were talking. That thing is sweet, man. That just made my life really, really easy. Let me tell you that much. Really easy.
Takes out so much of the thinking from it when you can just, like, it knows what to do. It can factor in what's already in your lineup. Yeah, it's a great tool.
It's fantastic. Well, it shows you the simulated ROI on every lineup, the original and then the possible replacements when there's injuries and stuff. So that is huge, man. Oh, by the way, guys, I know it's an NFL show, but jump in NBA lineup generator for the week, and then it's over. $4.99 for the first week. Even if you're only playing a few bucks a day, you think about that. You're spending $5 for the entirety of the week. You're getting 7 full days of basketball, and you're getting it for less than $5. Links in the description. If you haven't checked it out yet, you want them. Even if you're not playing NBA and you're like, man, I don't know what to do on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Fridays and Saturdays. Dabble in some NBA, and if you want no real risk in doing so, but you'd like to get a little action down, lineup generator. $4.99 for the entirety of the week. You guys already know how it works for football. Just as awesome for basketball. You saw how many monster screenshots we had rolling in for baseball. $4.99. Take it for a test drive. If you hate it, at the end of the day, at the end of the week, you're down less than $5. But I think you're going to love it. I really do. No better way to get your foot in the door than checking this out. So $4.99. Link in the description and chat if you guys are looking to, take a gander. The old lineup generator. It's an awesome deal we've got going. And then just auto apply that coupon code. You'll see it when you go in there. Just click it. It'll apply it automatically. All right. I want to talk about Kenny Pickett. You already talked about Will Levis. I want to talk about Kenny Pickett a little bit. What are you doing? Like, are you double stacking Pickett without an issue? I think it was Sean V that said he hasn't thrown multiple touchdowns in like 20 games. Is that right, Sean?
I believe the stat that I read today is Will Levis and Kenny Pickett have the same number of multiple touchdown games in their career. Will Levis has done 1 for 1. Kenny Pickett, 1 in the 20 games he's played, has thrown for multiple touchdowns. So I believe that is a stat that maybe Underdog put out there earlier. Yeah, pretty nuts to have just 1 multiple touchdown game in his career. I don't know. I mean, this Tennessee defense is such a pass funnel that I think I'm still willing to go there. I think I'm still willing to
They've only
double
allowed
stack it.
7 touchdowns this season in passing, which is nuts to me.
The Tennessee defense,
Tennessee defense, yeah.
huh? And they've given up some blow up games to opposing wide receivers.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I read it wrong. Hold on.
You might be right, but just in terms of DVOA, they're I believe 25th against the pass, second against the run. So maybe they're due for some touchdown regression because they've given up some plays, and DVOA would suggest that they are still a pass funnel, which is kind of what they're known to be. They're just so good against the run, not so good against the pass. So I'm treating them like a pass funnel defense. So I do have some interest in Kenny Pickett. I look at the first lineup that I made today, and I actually love this lineup, has a Kenny Pickett triple stack with Pickens, Deontay Johnson, and Connor Hayward. And it looks like a really, really interesting lineup to me. So yeah, you can certainly do it. I don't think that's a sticky stat. The fact that he's only thrown one multiple touchdown game in his 20 games, that's obviously going to change over time. So I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, it can't go on. I mean, if put it this way, he won't have many opportunities to fix that unless your time in the league will be short lived if you keep that up. You know what I mean? So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But so how are you double stacking, triple stacking Will Levis?
Yeah, so I've gone back and forth. I think after hearing Matt's analysis from the earlier show, suggesting that he does have that rushing upside, and that was kind of what I saw in the stats. And then, but the understanding that it was a turf toe his senior year that was holding him back makes me kind of think that Will Levis might have some legitimate rushing upside. So I am still requiring at least one pass catcher in every Will Levis lineup. I'm not requiring two though when I have him in the captain spot. I'm only requiring one pass catcher. I'm still going to get a lot of Will Levis double stacked in the captain spot, but I think that he might have a little bit more rushing upside than I had previously realized. The fact that he ran 7 times in the last game shows that he's at least willing to run there. So requiring at least one pass catcher with Will Levis, but I am not requiring multiple. I think that he does have some rushing upside, which is part of the reason that I really like him here, is just that he does have, a little bit of upside, I think, in terms of the run game. Now, we don't know for sure what he's going to do in the NFL, but the fact that he was running so much his junior year of college makes me think that he's got that somewhere in his back pocket.
Okay, this is where things get weird. And I would assume that some of you guys are thinking the same thing who are watching this right now. Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren, these guys are both relatively similarly priced. I agree with you, by the way, that Tennessee's still a pass funnel defense. It's weird that they've only given up 7 passing touchdowns, but I would still much rather target them in the passing game. Let's put it that way, right? But that ground game, it's already been a terrible run defense this season, or run offense, sorry, for a rushing game for the Steelers. They've had nothing working for them. And Jaylen Warren is involved as a pass catcher, but is that enough today? Like, you include those two as studs at the top 8, say, yeah, look, I want to have at least 3 of these guys. How much of those guys do you really want to have?
Wait, which guys are you?
Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. I'm just asking, how much do you actually want to have of those guys compared to the other guys that you would consider studs?
Yeah, not as much. I don't have a ton of interest. I have more interest in Jaylen Warren than Najee Harris, just because he is a little bit more involved in the passing game, which is funny because Najee Harris rookie year, like that, he was the check down king. It was working with Big Ben, of course, changes things. But this year has been Jaylen Warren has been running more routes. He's been targeted a lot more than Najee Harris for that reason, because they're in a tough matchup with Tennessee. Jaylen Warren being more of the passing game guy, and he's cheaper. My slight preference is for Jaylen Warren of the two, but I imagine I'm going to come in underweight to both of them. We have Najee Harris, looks like about 37% total ownership, 7% in the captain with a 6% chance of being optimal, 30% in the util with a 31% chance of being optimal. I think I'm going to be underweight to Najee Harris. We have Jaylen Warren at about 38% total ownership, 7% in the captain, 5% chance of being optimal, 31% in the util, 35% chance of being optimal. I'm more likely to get close to the field on Jaylen Warren, but I think I'm going to end up underweight to both of these guys and just play it play it through their passing game a little bit more. It's just a tough spot against this Tennessee run defense. Of course, we saw Zach Moss just eat them up. So I guess it is possible to run
We
on them,
did see that.
but that was just like out of nowhere. That was such an anomaly compared to every other run game against this Tennessee defense. So I'm assuming they're going to force Pittsburgh to throw the ball. And for that reason, I don't think I'm going to get to a ton of Najee or Jaylen Warren, but of the two of them, Jaylen Warren definitely my preference.
I think they were also without Tier Tart in that game, though. And that's, monster defensive tackle.
Yeah.
I think in that Indy game they were without him. I could be wrong, but I think so. That would actually make a big difference. You know what I mean?
Right. So, if you can point to a reason for that, not just like things got weird.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right. Defenses. Are there some defensive spots that, I mean, how could we not want to get to some defense here? It's a 37-point total. It's one guy that's made one career start, and the other one in Kenny Pickett, who has proven time and time again that he can make mistakes. I think having Deontay Johnson back is big for him. There's no question. You give him that possession guy, give him those easy passes, but they don't have a run game, and they're not going to be able to run well on Tennessee. And then again, on the other side, you're missing Mika Fitzpatrick for this defense from Pittsburgh, but they can get pressure. They're opportunistic. We know that. And they can get to the quarterback, a guy that's made one career start at home against Atlanta. Both of these guys are good. How much are you captaining these defenses, though?
Oh, good question. I had not really thought about them that much at captain. I do really like both defenses. I'm going to be probably overweight to the field on both. Definitely overweight to the field on the Steelers defense. They are getting some ownership though, so maybe I shouldn't say definitely overweight to the field. Given I didn't realize they're at the 28% ownership in the util, so maybe I'm going to be close to the field. But I do love the idea of playing the Steelers defense against Will Levis. Just such an unknown in the NFL. They're in Pittsburgh. I think that they look like a really strong option. I'm going to have a good amount. And Tennessee, similarly, I'm going to have probably they're getting a little bit lower ownership. I'm probably going to be not too far off from the field. We have seen Kenny Pickett, I believe, has thrown 13 interceptions in 20 career games. And then Will Levis, I don't think he threw an interception last game, but certainly rookie quarterback making his second career start on the road. I have interest in the opposing defense there. So yeah, I like the defenses quite a bit. I was ready to say I'm going to be well over the field, but we do actually have them at pretty high ownership here. So I'm probably actually not going to be too far different from the field. We have the Steelers at 31% total ownership. We have the Titans at 25% total ownership. So we've actually had some slates recently. I know people love complaining about defenses. We've had some slates recently where the defense has been like, I think the Raiders were like 6% owned in the last game.
And they had a pick six in that game. Yeah.
And they had I love defenses in those spots. These are defenses that I feel like have a higher likelihood of putting up a big score, but they're also getting ownership as a result. So ultimately, I don't think I'm actually going to make that huge of a stand on the defenses. But I will say I like them in part because I love the idea of just playing the Steelers in a Will Levis lineup, hoping that it's going to bring down the ownership of that lineup.
We had a super chat from Jay. It says Spears or Folk. I'm assuming Spears or Folk. Let's hit this on both sides, Neil. Do you want Tajay Spears or Folk? And are you interested? Nick Folk, fine. Kickers in a spot like this makes sense. Low scoring game. We've seen that work a lot. It doesn't feel fun when you're hand building to just throw kickers in there, but it makes sense. Are you getting the Tajay Spears at that price point? Seeing that he's been around an 8-9 touch per game guy?
Yeah, it's tough. He does not project very well for a $5,400 player. You can use him more in your lineups where you're playing Will Levis because he is involved in the passing game more than Derrick Henry is. So if you want to include him as a pass catcher with Will Levis, you can. But yeah, it's honestly a really good question because we have just looking at our optimal odds, we have Tajay Spears with a 15.3% chance of being optimal in the flex. We have Nick Folk at 15.7. So there's like nothing separating them. We do have Tajay Spears, and we also have them both at like right around 18% ownership. So really hard to distinguish between Nick Folk and Tajay Spears. Kind of depends on the lineup for you. Like if you're playing for a low scoring game, then maybe I'd go the Nick Folk route. If you're playing, running backs and defenses and kickers, that kind of thing. Maybe Nick Folk looks a little bit better. Maybe if you have Will Levis in the lineup though, then I might lean toward Tajay Spears just because he is a capable pass catcher. So maybe that would be the kind of the tiebreaker for me between those two options is if you have Will Levis in the lineup, maybe go Tajay Spears. If you don't, I think I'd lean on Nick Folk, the kicker, but honestly, it's really hard to distinguish. The best I can say, Nick Folk, we have at 1.7% captain ownership, 3.5% chance of being optimal in the captain. Again, though, I would leave salary on the table if you're using Nick Folk in the captain.
I want to take a look. I want to make sure we have enough time to look at the Sims tool. So if people, maybe you're not a premium sub, you see something you like, you want to jam that in real quick, make some swaps, and we still have about 10 minutes to do it. Are there any other spots we didn't hit on that you think are necessary to hit on, be it roster construction or individual players?
I think we talked about all the running backs. We talked about the quarterbacks. Calvin Austin, I just want to get back to it because I had mentioned earlier I was going to look at it. Calvin Austin in the most recent game ran 12 routes, so that was 24% route participation. I think that he is playing this game. I can't find any other information, but so he looks like another long shot kind of guy that you could play if you really want to. Tight ends, we talked about Chigakonkwo, I mentioned as a guy that I really like. Connor Hayward, a guy that just projects really well. He's, as I said, third in route participation target share. Darnell Washington, I do actually really like Darnell Washington as just a dart throw who's going to be low owned, I think, but low odds of hitting. I think we've talked about everybody.
All right, Jordan, pull up the sim. Let's see what we got here. You ran 10,000 lineups, 30% first place payout. The reason we did that is because that's what the huge contest on DK is. So we'll see what it looks like here. All right, so Kenny Pickett. I gotta let the screen clear up. It gets super weird at first, and then it just clears up on me. Is that Robinson? It is, isn't it? Hopkins, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Steelers. That's the high. Wow, 572 simmed ROI on that lineup. That is nuts. Pickens, Moore, Henry, Deontay Johnson, Kenny Pickett, Najee Harris are just getting a lot of expensive guys. Here's a Steelers D lineup. Here's a Steelers D captain lineup. Steelers, Connor Hayward, DeAndre Hopkins, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, and Kenny. Man, I like that, though. It's a 5-1, but boy, I like that lineup, even with Steelers defense in there, captain.
Yeah, let me take it. You're talking about the second one, Steelers defense with Connor Hayward, DeAndre Hopkins, and it leaves 1,200 on the table. So yeah, this is like I often say that if you're playing, a cheap option in the captain spot, it makes sense to leave some salary on the table. Yeah, you're right. This looks like a great lineup. You got the triple stack with Kenny Pickett in there. Only DeAndre Hopkins represented from the Titans. Makes a lot of sense.
Jordan, can you go to exposures for a second? You already favored at 100. This is our Sims tool, by the way, if you guys are wondering. It essentially tries to replicate the field in the contest generator. And then once you simulate those lineups, you're getting the highest simulated ROI lineups, that you're going to get. It's doing the lineup sorting process for you, which, as I say all the time, I'm not smart enough to build something like that myself, which is why when we came up with this tool, it has been immensely helpful for me personally. So exposure is a lot of Steelers. You can zoom out a little bit, Jordan. Pickett, Steelers, Johnson. Okay, Henry 45. I want to see Deontay Johnson is go up. Is Deontay Johnson our highest owned captain? Actually, just sort by position for a second. Just sort that. You can just descend it. It doesn't. Yeah, that's fine too. All right, go up. A lot. I love that though.
A lot of sense.
What's that?
Makes a lot of sense. Given 14 targets in the most recent game, he's always been a target monster when he's out there.
For sure. How much Hopkins are we getting at captain? 2%. That's the tough thing about Hopkins. It's like Will Levis could be terrible, but what if Will Levis in this game where they're not playing with the lead the whole time? What if he just goes full out Aiden O'Connell the way he did with Devontae Adams in week 4 when they were playing from behind against the Chargers? Like, what if he gets picked off, and they turn it over twice? It's 14-0. The possibility that he just peppers DeAndre Hopkins is very real.
Oh, for sure. He's a pretty clear wide receiver 1 on this team. So I'm kind of, I don't even know what I'm hoping for. I guess I kind of want Burks because I have a lot of Burks and a lot of Okonkwo, but yeah, it would not be shocking at all to see DeAndre Hopkins just targeted a ton again after his 3 touchdown game last time out.
Yeah, me neither. By the way, appreciate you guys getting us north of 200 likes here. It's only a 45-minute show. That won't be the case most times. We'll usually get a full hour in here and make sure that we can do all of that. Also, Sleeper. If you're on Sleeper, Derrick Henry, free square tonight, over a half a rushing yard, $100 first match deposit bonus if you're not on Sleeper yet. Dynamic payouts where you can take any type of prop you want over there because they place multipliers on them. Really good stuff. $100 first match deposit bonus up to $100 and the free square on Henry. If you're there, take advantage. If you're not there, links in the description and in chat. Sign up and make sure you're getting all of these free squares whenever it's the same thing as shopping odds on a sports book, except in this case, it's a 99% odds boost. Let's do one more thing. Go to the lineup generator. I want to see something, Neil. I want to play this. I want to play this in the lineup generator as Tennessee down and Pittsburgh. So go to all lineups, Jordan. You want to try that with me, Neil, for a second? We'll go Tennessee down, Pittsburgh up. So second one from the top, Jordan. So we're altering projections to project Steelers higher and Steelers playing with the lead in this type of game. See, like, this is surprise. I keep going. I thought we'd have more DeAndre Hopkins type lineups if we were playing like this, where they just have to throw to him a ton. Keep making other lineups. Levis Spears. Yeah, I don't know.
Makes sense that Spears would be in there because he would be more involved in the game.
Keep going. There's okay. So here's a 5-1.
With
Keep
DeAndre
going,
Hopkins.
Jordan.
Makes
I want
sense.
to see if we have any. If there's any Hopkins captain lineups. Yeah, it doesn't look like we're getting much Hopkins a captain.
Yeah, we're getting a lot, just not a captain.
I will say, I don't mind at all the notion of going Hopkins captain with 5 Steelers. It could work. That's not crazy to me at all. If they play from behind, and it's just like pepper him, even if he has, 9 for 90 or something like that.
Yeah.
And Will Levis doesn't get there. All right, save all the lineups. Let's see what our exposure looks like. Okay, so in this one, you're getting a lot of Jaylen Warren. That's really interesting, Neil. Why do you think that is?
Jaylen Warren in a game script where the Steelers are playing from ahead?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it just means that he helps them get there. Maybe it's not like he's getting there late. He's doing it early enough. That is really interesting. Huh. I mean, he's a pretty low price, allows you to pay up for the other Steelers that are likely to be putting up points in those games. So maybe he just helps you to get up to your Pickens and Deontay. But honestly, that surprises me a little bit that we have that much Jaylen Warren in a game script where we're expecting the Steelers to be playing from ahead. But he is also
Derrick Henry here.
Yeah. He is also game script independent. Like I noted in my article today, like both Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris have played between 40 and 60% of snaps in every single game this year. Like it's just such a split backfield there that Warren can get it done in any kind of game script. So I guess it's just he's cheap enough, he's good enough, getting enough volume that he'll make it in there.
Favorite captain, optimal captain. You know how it goes. You can't pick the same guy for both. We have to get a little. We have to have some fun here.
Favorite captain, I'm going to go with Will Levis.
Okay.
Optimal captain, I'll go with Deontay Johnson.
I like it.
How about you?
I think optimal, I'm going to go Deontay Johnson too, but I'll have some fun and go DeAndre Hopkins, negative game script projection for me. And Will Levis goes, oh God, I am still a rookie. I got to pepper this man. And he just hits him with like 15 targets.
I like it.
Follow Neil, guys. Player Q DFS, Neil _D. Appreciate you for hanging out as always. This is fun. Only 45. Like I said, we'll get back to the hour on Monday for sure. Shout out to Jordan Klein for producing. And guess what? We'll see you back here for the next one. Good luck. Yo, take something down and hit us up at Stochastic Hall of Fame when you do. If you're repping that avatar. We love seeing it. We'll shout you out. Jordan and I are going to record that tomorrow. Peace.